I saw that I had made an error in the submission, and this error was so huge.
So you discovered it yourself?
I discovered it myself,
good.
and it was Friday. I was based in Nigeria. I was working with colleagues based in the headquarters in Dubai.
You feel there's an added sense of like, I can't afford to mess up.
I used to tell myself most times that I am of all flavors of all flavors of D. So yes, I think it does. Subconsciously, you have it at the back of your mind that, okay, I just have to be like
the best.
1, 2, ready, go. Unveiled Voices.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Unveiled Voices. It's still your girl, Anifah, and here with me we have my co-host,
Mariam. Welcome back.
Yeah. Before we dive into today's episode, we want to thank our ride or dies, the people who have stuck to us since we started. As we've kind of gone on, I've seen people like share stuff without us asking them to share, people giving us feedback. Also, we've seen our views go up consistently. All this is just to show that real people are listening. So thank you so much for riding with us, listening to us, sharing your stories, commenting, liking. If this is actually your first time listening to an episode, first of all, where have you been all this time? Secondly, listen to everything, and
go back from the beginning.
Start from the very beginning. You need to understand our origin stories, right?
Yeah. It was when we were discussing on the group chat, like with the other folks, and I saw episode 23, and then my head just clocked.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah, third episode. That was like a lot.
I was listening to a podcast, and the person was saying most podcasts will never get to episode 10.
I agree.
So if you've even gotten to episode 10, it's already like a big thing. Now we have doubled that.
Yeah.
Plus more. What more is going to be our 1 year anniversary?
Soon.
Stay tuned for the 1 year anniversary special. But yeah.
Yeah, so we've been yapping for close to a year now. That's interesting.
We like call it yapping.
We've been discussing, addressing contemporary issues.
Implies that we've just been chatting.
That's it, yeah, true.
Yeah. So yeah, today's topic, what we want to discuss is actually work fumbles.
Yeah.
We also want to talk about entrepreneurship, whether side or non-side. And then, the lessons we've taken out of that, both spiritual and even ways of navigating similar situations better.
Yeah. I had lunch this week, like one of the lunch at work. I sat down with someone that has been in our company for like 21 years.
That's amazing.
So in my head, I'm like, I've not even used 10 years and I already have like stories for days in terms of like work. And this is someone that has spent 21 years.
I can't even imagine this.
So yeah, this person
is this person a woman now?
A man.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe
I was just curious, like
how many women stay that long. Yeah, that's actually a very, very valid thought. It will be interesting to see that statistics of like women.
So I remember reading a book a while ago. I think it was Leaning. Do you know?
Oh yeah. Cheryl
Steinberg used to be the CEO of
Facebook.
And she was talking about how back in those days, like women also went into like college in high numbers, and then they would get into jobs.
Yeah.
And then, as time went on, there was kind of that dropping of the people that still remained on the workforce. A lot of times not because they did not want to work, but just life getting in the way. So some people will have kids, go off, just never come back. Some people will come back and find out that actually
where they
1 year away, like
a lot has changed. Yeah.
And unlike now where there are actually initiatives where,
return to work.
It wasn't so, and she was just talking about, how women can make their experience better. Anyway, I think the story you'll find there is actually that the numbers do go down over the years. But we're not here to talk about that. All we're here to talk about is work fumbles. So right off the bat, what has been your biggest, most memorable
work
me mess up moment at work?
Like I was saying earlier, it's not like I have donkey years of experience, but even in the little that I've seen all sorts. So I think my experience has been rich so far. But it's not like work from, but I think the one that I still constantly sort of remember would be my first year when I started working full time. So I had done an internship in this company in 6 months before, so I got a full-time offer and I was already there. So there was that innate pressure I gave myself because I felt, my performance in the 6 months of my internship was definitely what made them offer me a full-time.
So you set a high bar.
Yeah, so I kind of like set the high bar for myself, and it was also during COVID, and I was working from home. People I was working with, maybe would do an episode sometime on how coming into the workforce during COVID and people that had tasted working from the office, like yeah, exactly. So there's a bit of where you're a new hire, you come into the office, you have people you can just turn your chair around and say, hey, I need help.
You never got that.
Exactly. So, or like you're online, you have to like first ping the person.
So wait, was your internship remote as well?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it was the first month or so when COVID hit, and then every other thing was just
crazy.
Like, yeah. So like imagine you needing to figure things out. You have to first ping the person. Person needs to respond. Maybe they need to set up a time. When if you were in the office together, it could just be as easy as just swerving your chair and just saying, "Hey, I need help." So it was a Friday that day, and it was during one of planning season. So I work in FP&A, financial plan and analysis. So we have like cycles where we do plans, say next quarter plan or next year plan or next 3 years plan. And I was the forecaster, the company forecaster at the time.
What does that mean?
Which is actually a very big growth for us.
Exactly.
Again, maybe that was like one of the pressures I saw. Like, what do you mean?
Why are you?
Yeah, but again, you just show the kind of belief or like what they thought I could deliver. So company forecaster is basically I was responsible for forecasting for that company for Nigeria. And Nigeria numbers will go into EMEA numbers, will go to worldwide numbers and all of that. So it was this planning season and it was a Friday and I just made a forecast submission. And just as I was about to close my laptop, I can still remember that day because I was with my mom and then I just saw that I had made an error in the submission. And this error was so huge.
So you discovered it yourself?
I discovered it myself. Okay. Yeah, I discovered it myself. And it was Friday. I was based in Nigeria. I was working with colleagues based in the headquarters used to be in Dubai. It was in Dubai. So Dubai was like 5 hours ahead of Nigeria. So Friday, my own time, end of business is already like hours end of business in Dubai. So definitely everybody had already gone home in Dubai. And I just saw it and I remember but I was my mom and I remember just like I sat on the floor first and I was just holding my head and I was just like mom was like, what's wrong? And I was just like,
so you were having panic attack.
I was having panic attack, but I was like, just shaking. I was like, what have I done? And so I was just like, okay, what do I need to do? And this was going to be like a very huge error because
in terms of the ripple
effect. So that means what we are submitting for Nigeria was already overinflated by X amount, and that was going to be like the commitment for the next quarter. So imagine just because somebody somewhere made a mistake. My mom was just like, I should calm down. And she was like, oh, I need to ping my boss, who was the CFO at that time, to just explain. And I remember explaining to her, and she was so calm. She was so, how would I put it? The way I had seen what the issue was not the way she was seeing the issue. And I had to write a COE. I don't write in COE. COE is like basically writing what went wrong, what could be prevented.
So like a postmortem.
Yeah, kind of like a postmortem. But point is, we're able to, because I detected it early. So come Monday, I done the COE, what needed to be fixed, and we just like sent it out to people. So we're able to correct that. Like one of the things I got from there was you would always fumble at work, even if you're like the best of the best. Like you would always have like moments.
I love that.
But it also made me realize that everybody has fumbled at one point or the other.
I think it's such a big, those 2 points.
Yeah.
No matter how much of a superstar
you always have your
genius person.
Would always
ask them this question and you at the response.
So because I remember after like when the old storm had died, I had to ask her that, wait, why did she not probably she was like, okay, if she had probably shouted at me or whatever at me, like exactly what have changed. Like at that point, what we needed to do was fix what had gone wrong and just like, and again, like if she tells me her own stories for days of like mistakes she has made and all of that. So obviously, off the back of that, I learned to triple check my rank and all of that, like make sure everything is
when it's
going out. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's like one of my highlights.
That's such a good story.
Fumbles.
That is such a good story.
How about you? Do you have any?
So I don't even want to talk about it, because I feel like I've had a couple of moments, but I did ask some of our circle like this question. And I think they have some interesting responses. So this first person is a software engineer like me, and the person is like, I don't go lie, I've brought down production before.
Oh, wow.
Production is like a product, a real product. So think of it like, I don't know if Chowdeck is a good example. Imagine nobody can use Chowdeck, the app, and people actually want to order food. Or that's even a bad example. Imagine GT Bank, the app.
No
working. Imagine you can't move your money for a very long time. So the person said they can't. They didn't even count it as a big one.
Wow.
Honestly, they think it's because of how they approach life. They're also saying maybe it wasn't so much of an issue. The reason why I wanted to talk about this is there are similar notes to your story, right? Where you're like, your boss or your manager was like, what would we like if I shout at you? Yeah. So you were panicked, rightfully so, because it was
first time.
And I feel like for me, I've also had moments like that when it's like, oh my god, it's not the mistake itself, is what would happen. What is off the back of that effect of this, which is so much less visible when you are junior. Yeah, as the more senior you get, you kind of know
what the implications of things you do.
You have a good sense of, okay, should I actually panic or not? Anyway, I wanted to read that because I felt like there were like similar threads to yours. I think with this, like when is actually a fumble, take ownership of it, right? Quickly raise it to whoever needs to. So escalate. Don't beat yourself up. I mean, beat yourself up small, but learn something from it.
And I think I was grateful to my mom at the time, because in the moment of me, like, just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, she was like, just tell your boss already.
As we're talking about this, like, there's a part of a question just popped into my head. The question is like, do you feel like for Muslim women, particularly like Black Muslim women who probably work in these global companies where you are kind of like there are not a lot of you or people who are exactly of your background in those companies, you feel there's an added sense of like, I can't afford to mess up, right?
I think it's more from, maybe being Muslim is like the last layer, but for me first is always from the point of, oh my god, I'm Black. Then once that layer of I'm Black, there's a bit of, oh my god, I'm a female. And then now there's a bit of, I used to tell myself most times that I am all flavors of all flavors of D. Then oh my god, I'm a Muslim. So yes, I think it does subconsciously, you have it at the back of your mind that, okay, I just have to be like
the best
at what it is I'm doing.
You don't even think you should, how do I say, there's no that thing of, okay, if you make mistakes,
everybody,
it's more like, I have to
I have to be.
I mean, the reality is, yes, like,
I mean, you can also argue that we've had like pioneers in like spaces that have sort of made
who's an example
easier.
In your space?
So, for instance, when I moved to Dubai in this company, I wasn't necessarily the first Black person from Nigeria to move to Dubai. Probably mine had the maybe extra layer of, I did it faster than most people usually would do. So maybe that, but because they were like people that had gone before,
wasn't that
and they had proven that Nigerians, exactly. So there was that kind of like trust built in Nigerians already because people had done it. So which is why I think we had an episode earlier on where there was something around, maybe someone tweeted about like when they don't like it when Muslim women or women in general say I was the first Black woman to do something else.
I remember.
That is a thing of pride, because you are literally like laying the footpath, or you're like laying the precedence for what people would think of other Muslim women.
I think
going forward
is, if it pushes you to do your best.
You should.
Go ahead and
Yeah.
say it. It's like nobody can come and police
Yeah.
me on saying I'm the best.
Best,
If
yes.
it's not like I'm lying.
Exactly, I am.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Good points from that. And hopefully like someone picks up something also about how you kind of handle that.
Yeah.
The next question.
Okay.
So have you ever like gotten a kind of rejection that is like, nah, I actually deserve that. Now this could be a job.
That you deserve the rejection.
Yes, that myself I know they prepared kind of.
Obviously, yeah, like.
Obviously, yes, I'm surprised.
No.
You seem like a very prepared person.
Nah. Yeah, that's. I mean, the Bank of America internship I wanted, well, which in actual retrospect, I still say it anytime. I think.
So it was a messy kind of.
Yeah, it was. That was a good.
Me,
life,
I have one where I don't actually know that I have that closure on it.
Which one?
So when I say closure, I don't think there's an outright.
You still feel you deserved it?
No. I don't feel I deserve it. I think I wasn't serious. I'm going to tell the story. I think I've told you before.
Okay.
We'll go through it again. But I don't know that if I had followed that path, gotten it, I don't know that it's not a good path for me. You know the way you can definitely say that. Oh, the Bank of America,
like
in
I'm
hindsight, nah.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I can say that.
Oh, which one is that?
So picture this: I'd gotten my Bank of America return offer.
Okay.
I was going to go back to Nigeria and just have fun till I'll come back. So when I say have fun, don't really do too much, just do my job, chill, hang out with a lot of my friends because I was very intentional about spending my time, people before leaving. And so this opportunity for like Microsoft came up. Like Microsoft, the actual Microsoft in Redmond in the United States as a software engineer. So the backstory is that a couple of my classmates in the time we were applying for Bank of America, Microsoft actually came to Unilag and recruited people. And a couple of I didn't know about it then, but a couple of my classmates got in, and they actually got full-time jobs
in Redmond.
Like I'm talking the actual and as software engineers. I'm talking. I don't know their comp, but I want to believe it was early 6 figures in dollars. So imagine. So I knew about it. I'd already gotten my Bank of America. I had resources. I had people who had done it before. I was like, oh yeah, I'll apply for it. On paper, it sounded really good. But I don't know if it was the complacency of me having a return offer. So you didn't put in your liking the UK, not really knowing too much about the US.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I was just like, I'll go. For their interviews, they did it in South Africa, which was an amazing opportunity, like the final round. So I scaled through all of the previous stage until the final round. And the final round is like 35 minutes or so of like 4 rounds with different people. At the time, it's not like now where you like do it like code. It was a whiteboard, like the classic Silicon Valley writing on the whiteboard. And I remember that I had this friend, Austin, who was in Microsoft already. And, he was kind of giving me heads up on, link list, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? I deceived myself into thinking I was studying. But I wasn't studying to understand. I was cramming it. So I was like, oh, this.
Once they bring it out.
The link list, this is how to do it. This. And what ended up happening was, by the way, amazing country. South Africa is really nice. What ended up happening was that, I got some of those questions that people had encountered. I'll give the good answer. So solve it like I've never seen it before. And then they'll ask me a particular characteristic about if you really know that data structure well, no matter how they bend it, you'll be like, oh, this, or they'll throw one complexity and I'll be doing and I already had a bad feeling. I think out of the 4, only one went really well. And that was one of the few parts that I actually really knew. Because they had something about arrays. Anyway, end of day or the second part of the day, rejection came. There was no closure in terms of, oh, you were a mess this was terrible. It was more like, oh, we can't give feedback at this time. So I already have another offer. I will enjoy the rest of my time in South Africa. Amazing hotel, everything. But I think what I want to bring out here is that it was my fault. I mean, there's always a part of like sometimes you can't outrun what Allah has
Just
written
say for
for
you.
you.
Yeah.
But it was my fault in the sense that I wasn't prepared. I was doing kind of like the classic la cram la pour, which can fly in a lot of situations, right? But in that situation, it wasn't going to fly.
But what if you feel you had prepared and then you didn't get it?
I would have felt better.
Okay.
And like, I like the certainty, and there might be, you guys let me know if you're like me or like mine. I like the certainty of like, I put in my best.
Yeah.
So the moment I don't put in my best, I'm already like, but if I put in my best and it didn't go well, it will pay me, but I feel like, okay, maybe your best is actually not enough. So with that interview, I think my realization was in kind of two parts. When I was thinking about it while like coming up with this episode, I was like, first, I don't know that if I had gone to the US, I wouldn't have been on a better trajectory. I can't say definitively that it would have been better or worse, but I don't know. So that's why I say
Devil's advocate. I think your UK journey has been better. You've gotten quite a lot out of the UK journey that I don't think, if we remove the money part, I'm not sure how.
How do you know I'm not?
Let's circle back up here.
From that, I also feel
I have my theory.
Yeah, I also feel like I didn't push myself.
Yeah.
I think, and
I get you.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think there are only few moments in our lives when
you need to go all in. Yeah.
You need to go all out.
Yeah.
And that was one of the moments I could have, and I never did. So there's a part of me that regrets.
I had cases of where I did go all out. I didn't get it. Would I say I've had closure? Well, actually, now that I think about it, I think I've had closure.
I think you forced that closure. Whether or not the closure, like, closure, bye.
No, I actually think I've had closure. Because if I had... Okay, so it was this competition in school, CFA Research Challenge. So I remember knowing about this research challenge in my year 3. So I practically was I helped the team that gone, because it's usually for like final year students, so that at least it's like your final year. So the set ahead of mine, when they were doing their own preparation, I'd helped them. So I kind of like already knew how the competition was going to go and all of that. So it was just basically wait for your own year, create your own team, and then go win. And the team that had gone the year before, they came third, and I was like, okay, yeah, it's first or nothing. Like we already know this thing. And I know that I did give it my all, like about a year of giving it my all with my teammates. In fact, I was so sure that we were going to win that I had done my passport off the back of that, because
I
was going to win. And I remember even when we did our presentation, because we presented last that day, like Unilag, UI, Covenant, everybody had presented, and we did our presentation.
And you were like,
yes, and like the feedback and everything was awesome.
So why did they not give you guys?
We did not do well in the report. So the competition is in 2 ways. There's presentation and there's report submission. So our report, when they did the weighted average, because our report was supposedly not good as relative to others, so the weighted average, guess what we came? We came third. I remember that day.
Did you get anything for third?
So only first got to travel.
I think the boy playing.
I remember I didn't touch the trophy. I was happy. But again, I think in retrospect, I think I've gotten the closure.
What's your closure?
Because
if you had done what?
Whatever rocks your boat, right? But in retrospect, I've seen how
what I'm doing. You won't like investment banking.
I think I would have been frustrated.
Why?
Because I've seen examples of
actually
like people like me, and how this is, and how it turned out. I mean, it's not like
bad, but that's how this.
Exactly the other side of it. And most times I actually question myself that would I have wanted this for myself.
You never know.
I mean, I think I would just be a case of I'll just wake up every day and I'll just keep telling myself we go again. I don't think that would have been it.
Yeah, that's not.
But yeah, I think that's an example of the one I put my all and I didn't get it, and it actually paid me, because again I did my passport on back over. But also an example of one I did not put my all. In fact, like it was.
And you got it.
I were angry. I 100K that year.
For
So there was this essay competition. I can't remember how I saw this competition. Like I just saw it and they're like, okay, yeah, that's fine. And I just wrote this shuke essay and I submitted. And I remember them calling me, oh, hey, we're calling from Access Bank. Would you be able to come to Lagos? Or this so date. You won the competition. I was like, okay, fine. There's first position, second position, third position, and I think they were like honorable mentions. So no, the person didn't say I won. The person said I was part of the finalists. So I just felt okay. Maybe I even honorable mention or something that well, you people will sponsor my trip to Lagos. I will go to Lagos. And I remember getting there on the day they had done the winner's placard and all of that, but they were covering it.
Also, it was meant to be a surprise even to you guys.
Till the very last moment.
Just there doing.
So they had covered the placard and everything. I was just there like, okay, yeah, well, nice. Shout out to the winner. Yeah, that person is awesome. Person won. And then they called third position. They called second. I can remember my reaction because I was sitting at the back of the room that day. For you to know how I was not like serious or like expecting it. And then they said first position, Mariam, and I'm like, wait, sorry, what's going on here? And I said, I
have to give a speech.
Yes, I do something of what my essay was about.
I'm on the spot. Imagine if you didn't write that.
It's like, okay, yeah, but I just came off the back of it and they published
my love money.
Yeah.
At least even now, that's all okay, yeah. So I'm 10 naira by the way.
Yeah. Naira. But it's not an example of one I didn't put my. But again, you would maybe not necessarily put my all because obviously I'd done some. Would I say built some bank of residual knowledge and all of that? So it was just like me tapping into what I knew at the time and just like putting it together and all of that. But yeah, that was an example of one I did not put my own.
I actually have one where I put in my effort.
You got it?
I didn't get it.
And did you pay?
For this.
Did you pay?
So this one, I think it did pay me then because I didn't understand
what it could have been.
So it was McKinsey Next Generation Women Leader.
Oh, okay.
So I got all the way through the SSU. I think to the interview stage.
Oh wow!
And then they called me that day. First of all, I should have been in a place where the call would go through, like no outside noise or anything. I think because I didn't know how big it was. I mean, I would have gone to France. This was before they started
doing it online. Yeah.
And then they called me, or they were talking about, so you said you do this coding volunteering thing. Tell me about it. I was just so ill prepared. So again, I think there's a similar thread in I went all out for my essays.
But
because I was really good at writing. Like when I was in final year, give me any essay thing for I knew what I wanted. I knew what was pushing me. But when it was time to close that moment and back it up with numbers, data, evidence, I was nowhere to be found. And it wasn't a surprise that I didn't get it. And again, it was just like,
but then when you did what it was,
we have a friend that McKinsey, they didn't go at that time. It was later, years later. So it was like talking about it, meeting people, the leadership. Even if I had gone just for the sake of talking to women ahead of me, I feel like maybe some of my natural leadership traits would have come to the fore. Like all the things I had to spend years learning on the job would have been a lot more outlined earlier. But yeah, so sometimes there's even that thing of you start strong, but you're not finishing. So yeah, guys, please, if you really want that thing, like
go for it.
Don't do half measures at all. There's the next one. So first of all, have you ever had any side hustles? Have you ever dabbled into entrepreneurship in any way?
No, I think
why? That's unusual.
Yeah, no. So
that's unusual.
If I could go back in time and like, I think somebody have asked me, or a couple of people have asked me before, like if I could go back in time and what would I change? I don't necessarily think I would change anything, but I feel like I would add some things onto it. What I don't think is a bad thing, but I think my early years were heavily fixated on academics.
Yeah. I think it's kind of
the Nigerian thing.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. Well, actually, by no fault of theirs, I think it was just basically what they knew at the time.
Of course, yeah.
In secondary school, there was this guy in secondary school. This guy wasn't like top 10 or whatever. But anytime we're just like chatting during break, and this guy start talking about like geography, this country is in this place, this country is this. I remember I used to be so like, how do you know this? Like, even the geography we are doing in school, this is not what they are teaching us. They are teaching us like, I just appreciated that
vastness,
that brilliance outside of the normal teaching us. Yeah, so that was why in my uni days I kind of tried as much as possible to include extracurriculars in things I was doing. So early on from my year one, I was already part of student finance club. I was already part of I was doing student union.
Was this just all to the overall portfolio of like Mariam the genius, or was it genuinely you liking all these things?
Doing the extracurricular.
Yeah.
So it was
that was a cohesive story, but was that what?
No, I think it was me trying to like rectify for my pre-uni days of when it was solely academics for me ish. I mean, in senior secondary school I was labor prefect and I was doing debate and all of that, but again it was still like primarily around academics, right? But the point I wanted to make up is I wanted to say is I had like a list of things I could be.
Yeah.
And actually this podcast is actually me actualizing one of the dreams, quote unquote, because on that list was be either an on-air personality, an OMP.
I loved
yeah, exactly.
Oh my god.
Or like be a voiceover artist, and this is like, yeah, but there was this time when I think probably in GS I was doing like this tutorial for I had a name of a school, God's Grace. I remember I would design like exam questions, like you used to have the logo of God's Grace.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think I wanted to, but I again didn't want to like move away from the box of this is the path to sort of quote unquote be great, like which is academic.
It's a Nigerian
thing.
It must be. Yeah.
I think it's now that I would say that I'm not in my entrepreneurship / founder mode kind of, but actively doing like entrepreneurship before. No.
Did you ever have anyone around you do anything?
Maybe that also could be a factor of that, because why I didn't have the influence. Yeah, I don't think I did, because I didn't have like, you have some people that probably their mom and dad had businesses like finance, and I didn't have that. So I didn't think I think that was why I didn't have that influence, because I didn't necessarily see it. It was either you go to school, you get a job, and you get something out of it. So I wasn't an entrepreneur. So how about you?
It's interesting. So I have two stories. One in like my earlier uni days, like year 2, year 3, and then one for my final year. So with the earlier uni days one, it was a thing of burnout of necessity actually. So people would ask me sometimes, "Oh, where did I get this stress from?"
People actually did used to ask me.
Where did you get this path from?
I did not just have me mind
for
to do.
me, like I had gotten some scholarship money which I was piling on, and I was like, okay, maybe
let's do this business.
An easy way to make the money go farther. So what I would do then was basically go to Yaba Market, sometimes go to Lagos. This was the reign of some specific like abayas that they were doing a dime a dozen. So I will go buy all of those things, resell them. And I think in terms of what I wanted to bring out here was kind of like some L's you've taken with like clients in a non-9 to 5 environment. So I remember a particular day, I don't remember, I can't precisely point out to what went wrong between me and that client. The person is still like a friend of a friend till today. But I know it had something to do with me selling them a piece, and maybe they didn't like it, and maybe they returned it. Maybe, I don't know. In my defense, I just started crying. I was actually in tears.
Why did they not like my clothes?
I don't even think it was that. I think I was just upset with as I read it then, the kind of flippant way the person had reacted. And I thought back to how I went to Lagos. It was so sunny. I was carrying the big bag all the way to bring it to Unilag.
And then you come in saying
And it kind of colored my experience of entrepreneurship. I definitely stopped
Like, I don't want
off
to
the
do
back
this
of, I don't think I want people to treat me in this
this
way.
way.
And if I look at it, there's a way that Nigerians treat like artisans.
Yeah.
There's a way that we treat people that we perceive to not have a choice, especially when it comes to service level things. I know also because my mom used to have a salon, right? And at all costs, they would have to be nice to
Yeah,
the
people, even when
if
they are
someone was being crazy. And so I was like, nah, I ain't doing all that. So for me, I guess like it'll be interesting to also hear from like the non 9 to 5
like kind of what form is
audience
the
of,
person.
you know, how do they deal with point blank crazy clients, or even point times where they have made mistake. And by the way, I have a story I got from someone here because I actually reached out. Point blank, when they know they've made the mistake, how do they actually recover from it? So this leads me to a story with, someone I know who makes dresses. So they are a seamstress, recent tailor, whatever you want to call it. And when I asked this question, they're like, they can never forget. So one thing about this tailor is that anytime they want to make a dress for me, they're very particular about getting the measurements right. Like, so I never knew the backstory until I asked this question. And she was like, she made that outfit for not just one person, like the entire family.
Oh my God.
When she got the measurements, she was like,
this thing doesn't look right.
Yes, but she made it. And then maybe they took it and then none of it, not even one of them fits. And she was like, she was very panicky about it.
Because that's a reputation.
Exactly. So I was trying to ask her, okay, what are some of the lessons you learned from this? And she was like, basically, if you are doubting,
double ask.
Yeah, double ask, like similar. Check. There was also the bit about, she actually told me that off the back of my question, she reached out to the person recent, like just to check in and ask, because I think maybe the person was going to send the clothes back or something. If I'm not mistaken, anyway. But there's been some
back and forth,
transit, and maybe that one done. The shot ended them. And so she was like, when she reached out to person even said, they want to make a dress. And she had been
thinking that our reputation,
self-flagellating that she has lost a customer, a lot of customers from that particular person. It didn't quite go well. So it was also kind of a lesson again in hindsight that don't assume because you've messed up with like someone that
I mean, you had that
forever and
credibility to start with, so it's not like they'll cancel you. I mean, some people do cancel off the back of one mistake, but not like they will outrightly like cancel you. So,
and again, like always double and
triple check.
Yeah. Okay. Next one. Do we even have enough time? Let's see. Next one. Was there ever a time where like you were just walking, probably to the detriment of even like your spiritual life? Like, Salah will come and be like, let me quickly do this, and before you know it, Zura has passed, Ashley has reached, all of that.
I think if there's one thing I am grateful about, because again, when I hear like people's stories, I don't think as bad as it is, I've had like that kind of crazy work life. The craziest I've worked before is 9 p.m. ish. Well, actually, it is one-off, but that was just like a one-off, not like something recurring. I don't necessarily think I've had like really crazy work week to the point that I don't have time to pray. I mean, some people have had like crazy work week that you don't have time to eat. So I don't think it's as bad as that. I know like people have had something like that. How about you? Have you had like crazy?
I've had a couple of moments, right? So some of it ended up being rewarding in some way. Some of it ended up being pointless.
Wow.
So the reason I want to talk about it is that sometimes we fall into this.
I have to work hard.
Hard work is. I mean, I'm not. Look, like the people here,
we're advocates.
Don't grok it all.
Yeah.
But the point I want to make, and the shift that has happened in me, is that it doesn't mean that you're going to be successful at what you're trying to do. So my first,
there are many ways to skin a cat.
And to be honest, probably just go for the easy way.
Yep.
Yeah, easy way doesn't mean you're not putting in
The
effort, you're
effort.
just not killing yourself. So my first example is that, so when I was in a previous company, I basically was working really hard on different fronts. So I was crushing it as a like individual contributor.
And you were doing people's managers.
I was also leading like the team. Not only that, my manager was relying on me for like being the face of the team.
Was you leading the team an agreed thing, or you found yourself in it?
It was a thing that I found myself, but me being me, I'll raise it up with my manager.
That this is
this
it.
is happening.
So what am I getting out of
What
this?
exactly?
Yeah, okay.
And I did all of this, did all of this, and I think that particular cycle, I didn't get promoted, which I think I really deserve.
Yeah.
And this is the thing about promotion. Sometimes when you actually did that thing, it won't come. It will now come in a cycle where you probably didn't go as hard, but because that context of you've done this,
yeah,
then you get it at that point in time. But and then the feedback at the time was, oh, Anifah takes on too much. I was like,
what do you mean?
Then there was also the bit about focus more on outcomes as opposed to the process. And I was like, wait, how will you get the outcome
if you don't do the process?
I was so pissed. And I remember, the way my manager kind of told me was that he kind of got overruled. He pushed for me.
Oh, okay.
But he got overruled from above because, again, there were some people waiting and there was a bucket. So, okay, I mean, Anifah's trajectory is already fast. She can afford to wait. That is what happened. But I was so pissed. I didn't mince words at all. I think I went out of that meeting. Then I went to write my thoughts. If you know me, don't let me bullet point. If I ever go and sit down on someone's matter and write it is over. The person is never winning because I have thought about it objectively. I've thought about it when I was annoyed. So, and the good feedback there was focus on the outcome is actually a key thing. Because if you're thinking about the outcome, you can take some shortcuts that if you are so focused on the process, so this is how we release, you know, want to bypass. But if you know that, if we don't push this thing out, you know how to jump on a call, call this person, because okay, we will de-risk, like, it's for everybody to get what you want. But if you've lost sight of that, then you won't get. So I think that was a good feedback. And when I was in another meeting with my manager, I was telling me that I think this is a very good one. It will help me refine. I started with that. Then I brought the guns out. Yeah. Do you remember so conversation when we were talking about I was leading the team, I was leading this project, which one should I prioritize? We were like this is a direct outcome of that. So what do you have for me? I think at the end of the day, they did give me like a sizable cash bonus, but it wasn't the promotion I wanted. Yeah. And it was kind of an agreement that don't worry.
We'll circle back.
So even when the time came for me to get this thing, I'd become a lot more strategic. I wasn't killing myself. I was just doing that. Yeah. Sometimes I would even start work, leisurely, breakfast, come back. Like I was a lot more measured.
And you had done the work already.
Exactly.
To be honest.
So that's a good example of work took over my life. I think to put it concretely, like sometimes I was stopping work very late. I was working from home at the time, which again is a trap in that sense of
because you don't have a start and end.
Stand up for lunch, like guys, that's not necessary. Like, stand up for lunch, Sometimes I would join Zura and Ashley. I'm at home.
Yeah, what's the excuse?
What was my excuse? So for me, like I don't want to ever do that again. So that's a time where it panned up.
Me too.
Yeah. I think the other example was, and this one is probably more to like listening to your intuition on like when something is not right for you. So I started working at this company. I was like the only Black person, the only girl in engineering that was a developer. And it started out well. Like I was doing well, I was crushing it. But then I had a one-to-one with someone who was quite senior in the company. Anyway, first time talking to this senior person, and we're talking, and I was just asking them, what would they like to see more in the company? Just, trying to source out the vibe. And person said something like, "Oh, they think that question is very
Some
sales like.
that why you asking that
Yeah, why
kind of
am I
question?
asking that? I just froze up. I didn't say much. We're kind of trained in like to know how to handle like public. I was livid that how dare this person talk to me like this? Like, do you even realize that this is a huge gap? That would never happen in certain levels of company. Like, but anyway, my gut feeling from that meeting was like, I don't think this is a place I should be in. But then I was like,
Let's still wait it out.
let's wait it out against my intuition. Then slowly the company structure started to change. They flattened the law of the teams. Things were very chaotic, right? And I was working sometimes till like 11 p.m.
Said complain.
Yeah, in said company. And if I look at it in hindsight, like,
What
we're
is
not looking for the cure for AIDS. We're
it?
not looking for the cure for cancer.
So why were we
It's some
doing that?
capitalist weird stuff that we're trying to improve to make money, and that doesn't need me to work up to 11. But when you're trying to prove a
Go
point
ahead.
that I cannot fail, go ahead. At the end of the day, me and the company parted ways, which is another story entirely. Probably I'll tell it sometime. But all that effort, pointless. When I look back now, and my friends will say, "Nah, you still got something from it." You know what? I only say it now that there are some companies I would never work for
because you've lived through
in
this.
terms of size, in terms of what the people that work there look like, talk like, what they stand for. And I go to interviews now, like actively looking at that. So my friends will tell me, you took that out, but I guess the point I'm trying to bring out here is again like hard work, putting all your best, trying to prove a point. When your gut feeling tells you you shouldn't be here, is not. Nobody has ever won an award for now suffer pass, right? Like, so I guess the lesson to pick out here is don't kill yourself for something that your mind doesn't even really align with anyway. And alignments could be in terms of the type of work you want to do. It could be in terms of the type of people you want to work with. It could be in terms of, does this thing even clash with my dean?
Yeah.
Fair, right? So for me, work shouldn't take over your life, and listen to yourself. Anyway, any thoughts from
No,
one?
yeah, I think so in the period, the one I mentioned, the 12 p.m. when I was working, so like 12 and 9, all of that. Like, I think I found myself questioning at that moment that this cannot be a lifestyle.
So you would have been a mess up
this
investment
cannot be a lifestyle.
banking.
I think I would have run away.
I think the point of the episode is that, first of all, if you're a 9 to 5 girl, if you're an entrepreneur, we've all had those moments where we didn't quite smash it. And as Muslim women navigating all of these things, there's always that pressure to prove that we are exceptional. Exceptionalism syndrome. So when it doesn't work out, we carry a lot more. It feels personal, right? And again, this isn't career advice, so please don't go and
if you want to do,
and if I said I should take it, then
no, you have to.
You will not work.
There's time and season for it. So you need to build that reputation.
So we've had our seasons where we've gone and we might circle back again where there's a season where we are going
I mean, with AI coming now, maybe I need to step up my skills.
Again, this is about like moments that have humbled us, feedback that has
shaped us, and also shaped us.
Sometimes when we've chased the wrong things, and the lessons we've taken from that.
Okay.
What's like the best feedback that has actually helped you be very good in your career?
So there's this media or yearly review we do. So even in my previous company and my current company, they do the yearly review. One thing that is always like a constant feedback that I get is I have a knack for deep diving. And I think it's a very
too much
good
details.
No, I don't think it's a bad feedback. I think it's a very good feedback because it shows.
No, me, I'm trying to understand the
Oh, okay.
feedback. So is it, when they say deep diving, is it
Like if there's a
by
problem,
explaining?
if there's a problem statement, I'm willing to go to the ends of the earth to figure out what exactly is the root cause of that. So, and I think for the ones that have really, really gone deep, you'd like really see like different layers of problems and be like, so this is there,
Yeah.
which would have never known if I didn't do that kind of like stuff. So that's like a recurring feedback, and I kind of, I own it. I own it as my strength. That yeah, like I'm passionate about like finding root cause, understanding exactly. Yeah, exactly.
There's still not everybody.
Yeah. No, that for sure. No,
I will
everybody
share
has
the
that.
worst feedback.
What's feedback?
Um, what was it again? Anifah showed.
You count the feedback.
It was something about the person not liking my tone when I talk to them. So I asked my manager that can they concretely give me like what's the actual example so that I can work on it, because I actually had an open mind
to work on that.
Yeah. And that was the first time I heard that feedback that, oh, maybe I come across as bossy or something like that. This was also the time I was leading teams, so like, guys. Anyway, my manager went to ask the person, and they were like, no, she's actually really cool. That was just when we were getting to know each other. So why did you write it there?
Wow.
Why did you write it there? See, I even want to say this because I think sometimes the world doesn't expect us to be assertive. When I say the world, I mean other people. Because I feel like if you grow up with like a woman, a black woman, you should know that we actually talk, right?
Yeah.
So maybe some people just have preconceived notions. And so when they're like, oh, okay,
why is this person talking this way?
Maybe I'm asking you that, what about this thing that you said you do? So you're vexed that I'm asking you.
That why is she asking me? She's not supposed to be asking me.
I guess my point here is that for women, for black women particularly, there can be that thing where people take offense with your tone. I think you need to learn to decipher what is objective versus not. So when someone tells you that, you don't want to say, no, I don't do that. You want to ask, is there an example of a situation you could have handled better?
Yeah.
And it's hard because people sometimes don't want to come out and say, this situation, because then they know. But a way they say it, as someone might say, I observed.
Yeah.
So they can kind of remove the person you guys actually had the encounter with. But my point is, there are times when, yes, you can work on your tone a bit, but there are times where it just falls apart, like my example. Right? It falls apart, like my example. So don't let someone's feedback make you shrink up into yourself.
Yeah.
But
try to be objective in receiving the feedback, and also try to fizzle out. Try to fizzle out.
Person when no fit talk.
Yeah,
so please don't lose yourself. What's a version of success that you're letting go of this year?
What do you mean a version of success?
So maybe I think someone like you've always had like a picture of what, I fly in career, blah, blah, blah. You want this, you want that. So what's something you're like, nah, that's actually not my vision of success?
Yeah, maybe like getting to CFO level.
CFO level.
I'm like, yeah.
Why? What do you think has changed?
Because I've seen people get there, and I'm like,
I don't life is shitty.
Well, I mean, to them it could be the best thing ever, but to me, I'm like, I don't think. I mean, this could change. I could get there, and my kind of person could make it work. Like maybe like put better systems in place. Maybe the reason why I'm seeing how it is working like for these people is because I feel maybe their systems are not working for them.
Or
but
you don't want that.
Or I don't want that kind of system. But I think maybe their own version of that is something I don't want to.
Yeah.
So if I get there and I make it work for me, fine. And if
I think your realization is actually that you don't have to get to CFO like linearly. It doesn't have to be next year.
I haven't even also seen. Oh my god! As you grow, in your career,
because you said that you might still make it work. So it's not an absolute no.
It's not an absolute no. If it happens,
that
but
it doesn't have to happen.
Yeah, and also like seeing the journey it takes to get there. I'm like, I don't want to do this dogfight. I don't want to do this bodily kill. I don't want to do this politics and all of that. So
oh my god, the politics.
Yeah,
don't get me started.
If it happens, it happens, and if it doesn't, kalas, I'm fine.
Yeah. One thing just came to mind now. I saw a tweet somewhere where someone was talking about like they getting feedback about them not interacting with the team. What are your thoughts on that?
Not interacting with the team,
like not being
chatty.
Yeah, the team doesn't really have a feel of who you are, and their position was like, oh my god, why do I have to, like, they were kind of moaning.
I think you can always have work you personality and
so fake it.
Not necessarily fake it.
Fake it till you don't hate it.
So you don't necessarily have to be your smile. So when you're getting your work done, that's what you're paid to go and do our work.
I have a different opinion.
You have to be smiley with everybody.
No, I think, first of all, I get annoyed when people
think you have to be smiley with them.
No, when people moan about this, because when I say moan about it, like they are complaining that
I don't have friends at work.
Yeah, they are all against me. Get over yourself. Like seriously. See, I'm not trying to be insensitive. I've had times where like clearly the team structure is a problem. They are not trying enough. But you're in a team where, you know, you come in, everyone is swapping stories about how their weekend went, and you're just there looking like, if you cannot talk about your weekend, be the one to first ask, oh, good weekend, something like that. My point is, people like to work with people they actually like talking to. They don't even need to like them.
Yeah.
Just ask questions if you cannot share about it. And before you know it, like,
you get talking.
You get some level of familiarity. You don't have to be super close. But again, this is to Black women and, you know, Muslims. Like, you already have a lot of things that naturally excludes you away from this thing. So you don't want to go to the pub, you don't drink, you naturally, there's a barrier, let me put it that way. And this is something one of the people in Bank of America told me. Naturally, there's a barrier between you.
Because things that other people will be able to do, okay.
You know, you went to the same school.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that, they're like, we went to UCL. UCL. They're like, they've already bonded.
But yeah.
You are coming from Unilag. You are coming from Ladoke and Kikola.
What are you bonding?
Nobody knows you. Nobody knows you, and you're there like, you're asking me to talk. Oh my God, they all hate me. No.
Yeah.
Come in. Be known as the person that she's always coming in with a smile.
Yeah.
If you're not making effort, it's not now working. We can now talk about it. That okay, what's happening? Talk to someone outside. Am I being crazy, or
it's not just me?
Yeah. I've heard like if they are
what do you mean?
If you are being singled out, being picked on, you can start to plot your exit.
Yeah.
But don't come online and bemoan the fact that people are asking you to interact. Like, it's a job. It's already a chore.
Yeah.
Don't shoot yourself in the foot. Anyway, for our listeners, share your work fumbles with us. Share your entrepreneurial stories.
We would love to hear you.
Interviews that didn't go as planned, feedback that helped you grow, or the ones that shook your confidence and you're like, no, this is not me. Talk to us about your business or side also. Please, I want to learn how to make more money. I need to glow more. DM us, tag us, comment, submit anonymously to add to Mike. Again, we might share your story in future episodes. But yeah, you're not alone.
Yeah.
We've all fumbled before, and may Allah make it easy for us.
Ameen.
Assalamu alaikum.
Bye.